on what is the root of my problem? Like, why do I freeze? Why am I responding this way? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Why, when I let him just even give me a hug, or why can't I just let him just give me a random kiss? Like, everything had to be so structural, and I was very defensive and on guard still, thinking like from a place of I thought I was already delivered. Like I went through, one piece where it's like I'm not attracted to women anymore, but now I need to figure out this part with my husband. And do you want to talk about more so like what that looked like when I would be transparent with you and I would share things with you?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the very important point for individuals to realize that when you marry somebody that has come out of the lifestyle, you're gonna have to learn to do two things very quickly. One, you're gonna have to learn to be mature super fast and not just being all up in your feelings and feeling like the person is rejecting you or they don't like you or they don't want you, because most likely that's not the case. They already married you. They already said yes. That's not necessarily the case. And the second thing is you will have to learn to be patient. You will have to learn to have the patience of Job. And I say that not to say that it has to be a difficult journey, but you have to understand where the person has come from to the best of your ability. And that'll be challenging because you yourself have not come from that place. I suppose it depends on, your marriage situation. I did not come from that place. And then also our love languages differ quite drastically, whereas mine is very much physical touch. My spouse's is not necessarily physical touch. Now, whether that has come from trauma or that's just how she is, could probably a little bit of both. Um, but there are certain things that I was very naive in thinking, okay, well, she's delivered and, now she's going to be, the Lord said, this is it and all that. But what I've learned to realize is that us getting married was more than just us getting married and having fun time. It really was, the Lord really sent my spouse somebody that would be willing to understand, that would be willing to fight to that place of being patient and trying the best that I can to
Creating a safe place.
creating a safe place for growth. And it was very challenging. And it's gotten a whole lot better. There's still some things here and there that from time to time are challenging, but I'm not naive like I was when we first got married, and thinking, you know, I'll give an example, and it's kind of, I'm sorry, it's kind of really, it's a very personal space. But so I thought in my measly little mind that, when I'm cuddling with my wife or whatever, I could cuddle up behind her and be cute and whisper sweet nothings in her ear. Whereas while I thought that was cute, my spouse was not thinking that was cute at all because that was a trigger for her. And in us having real, deep, legitimate conversations, we found out why that was a trigger. Because of, a perpetrator that she experienced, sexual abuse from, that is something they used to do. So here I am thinking, oh, I'm being so cute. I'm just trying to love you. And at first I did take offense to it, like, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just loving you. But we had to kind of grow through that space.
Yeah, I think you really had to learn to love me, and I had to learn to love you. Um, we were really creating a safe place and creating an intimate place because it wasn't, I had to come. It's like you can tell someone over and over again, like, I'm not rejecting you. It's just something inside of me is like, it's really me. Like, but whenever somebody says I'm the problem, people don't really believe that. And so, I really was saying, no, dude, I'm the problem. Like, I need a second to process why am I feeling this way? And so that's one thing that I constantly had to have open was an open ear to hear the Lord. Because I knew that if I did not have an open ear to hear the Lord, then we would not survive. Like, I knew that I needed to be able to surrender literally everything to the Lord, even in our marriage and even in our intimacy and all that stuff. Whereas even when I was sharing stuff with you and I remember like the first time that I actually had a conversation with him, And this was what, like a few months after being married or something like that. It was like a few months after being married. And I told him, I was like, okay, dude, this is what it is. I said, I'm gonna just give you the details so that you can understand why this is not working for me. Like, it's doing nothing for me, because A, B, and C is what happened. This is how this person would treat me. This is how this person would wake me up. This is how this person would do it. Like, I just was very detailed, like how the structure looked like, what the kind of abuse I experienced, where, and not just with that person, but with, other experiences that I had as well. And so just like being very detailed. And I remember him being so quiet. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I don't know if this is like I screwed up, like I don't know if I said too much, I don't know what's going on. But it was a silence of like, oh, he's actually hearing what I'm saying. Like, he's not just taking in this information and being offended or trying to find a way to argue with me, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times I feel like marriages don't have that safe place where you can be transparent without being defensive and trying to argue about the problem. It was more so like it created a safe place where I was just like, oh, he's actually hearing me out. Like, he actually wants to know more. And he started to ask questions, and he was interested and he wanted to know more. Like, hey, I need you to, talk to me more about this. And the fact that he opened that space for me, it gave me an ability to be vulnerable, and really pour myself into our marriage, because I didn't realize that there were still like some walls up where I couldn't trust him all the way. And so the fact that I was able to be vulnerable with him and open the door for me to be able to trust him and open, and I noticed that when we worked in the intimacy department, everything else kind of fell in line. Like, other things that we would argue about, or the things that we would, just petty arguments that we would have, or just like things that would just because, right? So I noticed that when we were fixed our intimate, like we would talk about our intimacy, we would talk about these things that the Lord is showing us, all this stuff. Then we came to like everything else kind of fell in line, even our household, where things flowed easier. We weren't arguing in front of the kids. We weren't trying to prove each other wrong or trying to do all this other stuff. And so,
And it wasn't easy. I think what I really want people to understand is you got to be invested in this thing. You know what I mean, Apostle? Like, you got to, you got to be invested in marriage either way. But when you are married to somebody that has come out of the life, especially where trauma has been involved like that, you have to be invested and you got to be in it for the long run. I actually find it very appropriate that you all call this the journey, because it really is a journey, and there's different layers to this. Just because you got kind of through that first layer and figured it out and worked it out, and God brought healing. Okay, well now there may be a couple more layers we got to go through for more healing to come, and that is okay. It is not an overnight thing, and that is okay too. If you just want this to be like that, then I have newsflash for you. We have a couple different problems. If you just want it to be an answer like that, then sir, ma'am, you probably shouldn't have gotten married to begin with, because you being selfish. And I think we all inherently have a little bit of selfishness in us that has to die. I didn't think I was selfish, but oh man, I got married and realized, Lord, I need help. Like, please help me. It was really challenging. And you really have to learn to love the person like with a true unconditional love, because that journey can be really rough and can be very challenging, but you can get through it. You just have to be committed and willing.
Yeah.
And you have to trust God, and the two of you have to be willing to talk to one another. She was mentioning how some of these triggers, because of the person that sexually abused her, when she started telling me some of the things that the person would do, part of my reason of being quiet was I really had to reflect, because a lot of what she was mentioning is stuff that I was doing, thinking I was being cute. And I wasn't trying to, and I'm talking about the abuse part. I'm talking about the like, oh, cuddling up behind her, whispering in her ear, randomly coming, in the kitchen and wrapping my arms around her. That seems like normal stuff to all of us. for folks that haven't gone through that type of trauma.